I'm the uncanny Dayspring.
I'm the adjectiveless Flinkman.
We are here today to discuss X Factor #1 by Mark Russell and Bob Quinn.
And just for those keeping score, this is the fifth volume of X Factor that we have gotten. This is the fifth X Factor #1. Not quite as many as Uncanny X-Men, but still an insane amount of relaunches in a very short time.
So we haven't discussed our own personal feels. We both read the issue today. Flink, I have to ask, is the fifth time the charm?
No. No, it is not. No. Mm-mm.
Mm, mm. I have some really complicated feels with this issue. I will agree
Same.
with you. I think there are better iterations of X Factor. But before we dive into it, though, there was news that dropped this weekend from D23 that
Yes.
X-Men 97 Season 2 is going to be featuring the Morrison era new X-Men Frank Quitely X-Men costume designs. Thank you. Because I feel like the internet is so angry about this.
I listen, the X-Men are about change, and that includes the costumes. The Morrison black leather costumes were indicative of a major time, a major shift for the X-Men at the time. And I think all it can mean for the animated series is, we're shifting directions. We're going in a new and interesting direction. And we were actually just discussing those costumes the morning they were announced as part of our Marvel Legends episode. Yeah, I love them. I hope Emma is full sexy diaper. I hope Jean has her long black coat. I hope Logan is shirtless. Like, come on, give it to us.
I was shocked to see how upset a lot of people were at seeing this news because the Morrison era really revitalized the franchise. And I know it's a byproduct of the Fox X-Men and having
Yeah,
darker costumes, and people now prefer the colorful kinetic costumes. But this was a time when the X-Men desperately needed readers to come back to the
right.
comic books. And Frank Quitely's design did it. Whether you love them or hate them, New X-Men is a very solid era. So
Yeah.
I think if done correctly, these costumes can pop, they could be kinetic. I also think like obviously it's only going to be for season 2. Season 3 they'll probably introduce new costumes. So I see a lot of people, really upset about it. And I'm like, that's fine. You don't need to like these costumes, but this is not a nail in the coffin. They will cycle through these costumes as we saw with their classic looks, as we saw with the Jim Lee looks.
Yeah, I don't think any costume is forever at this point on X-Men 97. And like I said, the X-Men are about change. One of the complaints that I've seen that I might have to lend a little credence to is that if we're, doing a 90s set X-Men series, why are we not getting things like Joe Mad Storm, which I know you're a huge fan of,
Mhm.
Jean and her, red and gold Revolution Phoenix costume.
You're playing to my heart now. You're
I
playing
know.
to my heart. Stop it.
I'll stop. But like I can understand that point. I can understand
Right.
like
I
why
can
are
too.
we jumping to the 2000s when there are still some good 90s costumes? But my thing is nobody was complaining when we were jumping back to the 70s and the 80s.
I I agree. X-Men 92, X-Men 97, they jump around different eras. It's sort of a mesh out of all of these different. And by
Yeah,
the way, we already hit the Y2K X-Men with Zero Tolerance and Morrison. I know Y2K, excuse me, I know Zero Tolerance is sort of on the cusp of
right.
like late 90s, but we already did E is for Extinction, which is the defining story of New X-Men. So it shouldn't be that much of a shocker or stretch that we would be hitting these costumes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think once again, people on the internet just like to make a lot of noise. And then once the show comes out and we get a good narrative reason for the shift in costumes, people are going to be thrilled. We're suddenly going to have many more fans of the X-Men in black leather than we had before. And you know that I'm going to say hopefully we get Marvel Legends of it. We were just talking about how
Oh.
badly we wanted them the other day. So like fingers crossed that happens.
I thought the outcry online was going to be people being like, wait a minute, we're setting up the adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix. Wait a minute, we have the X-Men in the past. We have a new team brewing. I'm curious if people are apprehensive, as am I. Are we going to get Slim and Red? Are we going to get like unique costumes for Rogue and Beast and Wolverine? Wait, was Wolverine in the past? I don't think Wolverine was in the past, but are we going to see them in unique costumes during the Egyptian era when Ensaba Noor's rising? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that there would be more of an outcry of like, wait a minute, if we're getting
Yeah.
these costumes, are we skipping past the things that the end of season one set up? But that's not the outcry I'm seeing. So I agree with you.
I'm sorry. I'm like trying to interrupt you as you're talking after I ranted, but like that's my thing. It's like because these are like what 10, 12 episode seasons. Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, that means it's going to be half an episode. If
Right.
they're going to be doing Morrison era style costumes. We're assuming that the X-Men they have a lot to do. They have to establish a new team. Forge and Bishop have to somehow find the X-Men and bring them to the present. That's at
Yeah.
least a 3, 4 episode, arc. So that means are we only going to get these Morrison costumes like we did with these classic costumes for the last six, last handful of episodes?
Yeah, possibly. And I mean, we talk about rushing through these storylines that, fans like us want to have breathing room and have multiple episode arcs. We got Inferno in one. We got Inferno in one episode in the first season. And despite the fact that, being the Maddie stan that I am, I would have liked to have seen it stretched out a little bit more, at least a two-parter. Yeah, they did a good job with it. So, I know Bo isn't involved. Things could change from what he planned. But I still would like to have faith that even if they condense something like Cyclops and Phoenix down to an episode or two, it will still resonate the way we want it to. I'm going to be the optimist here.
I don't know how to have a proper conversation now where you have accepted that Inferno, which is this massive, big X-Men crossover, was condensed to one episode. And here am I complaining about the adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix possibly getting half when it's a 4-issue series. I have no room here to like even push back on you. But I will say, though, I think X-Men 97, we've talked about how much we love it. I will say one of the only notes that if I could play Monday morning quarterback is I think Inferno should have been at least a two-parter. They should have given Inferno a little bit more room to breathe because I think a lot of people really wanted to see that Manhattan hellish
Yeah.
landscape, mailboxes eating people. I do think that was one of the rare misfires in X-Men 97. Although I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of grievances and misfires. That's not an invitation, but I think Inferno was a misstep in X-Men
I
97. Not poorly done, but could have been better.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I mean, we know that my initial reaction to it was, how the hell is this, a 22-minute episode? We're getting the entire Maddie arc in that time. But, I think it's because I'm okay with it because Maddie's arc was so well done. And that X-Men 97 is the definitive version of Madeline Pryor to me at this point. I can't stay mad for long.
I mean, Maddie is, I love how you said that because, and we'll talk about Maddie later on in this episode, but I think X-Men 97 did Maddie so much
Oh,
justice, and I love it so much. And that is someone, again, Bo understood who Madeline was, understood what kind of position
yeah.
she would be if she was really on this team thinking she was Jean, and then waking up one morning finding out she's a clone, and everyone betrays Maddie to go to the real Jean. That is insulting, and I love that
Storm would have
about.
believed her.
Oh, I can't. I cry when I think of that. I cry thinking about that. But
Awful.
yeah, so Morrison era costumes, the Frank Quitely designs. I'm excited. Let's see. I think this will give an opportunity to see other characters wear them when we haven't seen them. Well, no, we have seen Sunspot wear the Morrison jacket.
Yeah.
Rogue and Bishop have worn it in Extreme X-Men on covers and sort of Jean trying to pitch them on everything. Storm, obviously. I hope Storm gets a crop top. The crop
Oh my
top.
gosh. She gets the little schoolgirl uniform that Emma gave her in Extreme. Oh Lord, that would be what a sight that would be. we can't forget, in addition to the Morrison era costumes, we know that Popo is coming, our girl Polaris.
Yeah, Polaris is coming back. We're excited to see her. She had a really quick cameo in the original series. I mean, she was a central part of Cold Comfort. And
Yes.
do you know who voiced her?
I don't.
Terry Hawks, who is the voice of Sailor Moon, or Serena, the second voice of Serena in Sailor Moon, the dub.
Well, we know you stan, so
Yeah. So I'm excited to see her. We're also going to be seeing Warlock.
yes. I mean, again, I am appreciative of that. He was part of the 92 series adaptation of the Phalanx Covenant. That was a great two-parter. Why can't Inferno be? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But
Well,
I'm
okay.
excited to see. Are we going to see Doug?
Well, that okay. So, are we going to see Doug? But oh, wait, this was another question I want to ask you. This is what happens when I don't keep notes because I'm like, there's so many things I want to ask you, which is, I mean, again, with Inferno and thinking about Phalanx Covenant and Dark Phoenix Saga, do we think they need to do these part one, two, threes, and fours and fives again, like they did for Tolerance's Extinction? Do you think they should be just reserved for the season finales, or should they do like multiple episodes for one story?
I mean, I think with the limited number of episodes that we get per season, that I don't really have a problem with them saving that for like the big finale, because otherwise we're just going to the plot isn't going to move forward as much as it could if
Yeah, that's fair.
if we have multiple multi-part episodes throughout the 10, that the very limited amount of episodes we get as it is.
Danger making her debut. Oh, I
Yes.
mean, I guess she's technically always been there because she's the Danger Room.
Sure,
But
sure.
sure, 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 sure. I'm excited to see her, and Deathstrike is coming back as well.
Great, great. Bring back those, biomechanical villainesses. Let them wreak havoc on the X-Men. We always love to see it.
Very excited for X-Men 97 season 2. We're sad Bo's not part of it, but I in particular am a diehard Bo stan. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
um, but I'm not gonna let that sort of eclipse anything. I'm coming at it with an open heart. So far, so good. No red flags for me. Let's see what we get.
let's see. I mean, obviously, we wish Bo the best. He did an amazing thing for X-Men fans. That season one of the show was truly a gift. And a love letter to the mutants. So let's see what we get. Again, I want to be optimistic about this.
So you are I don't think massive X Factor fan is a way to describe it. I mean, you are like this is your ride or die X Factor.
Yeah, I mean the Peter David's run on X Factor in the 90s and again at post House of M with X Factor Investigations, those are particularly the 90s team are among my favorite X-Men of all time. When the teaser for the new X Factor came out, it was like the only one that got me instantly excited, even though it's drawn by Greg Land. Sure. It has
I was
Havoc.
gonna say a Greg Land cover got you excited.
Well,
That's how much you love this team.
yeah, I mean, it has Havoc back in his, I think I ranked it in the top three of my all-time favorite
You did?
X-Men costumes. So he's in a version of his head condom outfit with his hair poking out and his oversized jacket over blue and yellow spandex. I love that look. It's a classic. I was very, very excited to see him back in that look. I was excited to see Farrell. I was,
Oh,
Angel isn't one of my favorites, but he's been criminally underused the last,
criminally is a great word
decade
to
or
use. Eh?
so.
Yeah.
So, I was happy to see him. But yeah, no, this is one that this was the From the Ashes book, aside from Dazzler, that I was the most excited for.
Yeah, so I mean I've read parts of the original Peter David X Factor run. I
What do you
came
mean
in
parts?
part
What?
well, like pockets here and
What?
there in the 90s. It was hard to find these comics. I haven't I How about this? I haven't read it fully. I think if someone would quiz me on those X Factor issues, anything north of when did he come in? 70, issue 70, 71. Anything north of 70, I probably have some holes in my X-Men knowledge. But I came in when Mystique was on the team, so was Shard. Forge was leading. Polaris had that Bob that was really big in the mid 90s, and Howard Mackey was writing the book. And Forge looked at Mystique and was like, I noticed you never look at yourself in a mirror, and like shows her her reflection. Mystique is like, oh, that's the X Factor I sort of kind of knew growing up. And Havoc was with the Brotherhood, and he had the whole thing going on with Mutant X.
Yeah.
I love the X Factor investigations post House of M Peter
Oh,
David run. That to me is a perfect, solid run. And that's where my love for X Factor is. Some of the other iterations I haven't been really vibing with. Obviously, we infamously did not agree on Leah Williams's X Factor,
yep.
but there's no denying that was a fan favorite to a lot of people. And Mark Russell is a writer for this. I have to tell you, I like Mark Russell quite a bit. He wrote Batman Dark Age, or writing Batman Dark Age, and Superman Space Age, and he also wrote this book about the Bible called like Jesus Doesn't Love You, or I Don't Trust Jesus, or something like that. I was kind of I had higher expectations coming into this. I'm kind of questioning what we got here, not in a in a negative way. I'm like not in a negative way. Yeah, I'm not too happy with this issue. And it's because I had really high expectations, and I don't know if I can divorce myself because I think Mark is a very exceptional writer.
Yeah, and I haven't read anything by Mark before. So I came into this completely blind. All of my faith was placed on the costumes and the art that we have seen. And the artist on this book is Bob Quinn, who is a perfectly good artist. I wouldn't say that the art is anything exceptional, but it does the job. And I don't have a lot of negative things to say about the art.
Yeah, no, I think the art's really good. Again, I've read Mark when he's paired with oh my gosh, what is his name? He did Ecstatic. Is it Allred?
Allred,
Michael?
Mike
Yeah,
Allred, yeah.
Michael Allred. So he does Superman Space Age and Batman Dark Age with them. And I think Allred is a better pairing for his writing because there's some things here that like I think were meant to be serious but came across a little too clean. Like
Fair.
when the people are heckling Angel and they throw that, yoke on him and it's
Yeah.
on his chest and it's so perfectly done. I was just like, I think he needs something a little bit more sloppy there. But I think, listen, I think Bob Quinn is a great artist. We've seen him in the Krakoan era. He is no notes on his art in general.
Yeah.
I question the pairing here. So the thing about the one note I wanted to mention is that I think with Superman and Batman and that Bible book I'm telling you about, what Russell did is take lots of history and condense them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's trying to do here too with X Factor, at least trying to pay homage to everything that's come before. But I don't think it's done well, especially with Frenzy, with Angel. I think there's some serious like misfires here, and I'm really upset about Rusty Collins.
It's interesting that you mentioned Mike Allred because this issue absolutely, to me, reads like a worse Ecstatics. Oh, hi, Ben. Ben is
Hey
here.
Ben, hey Ben. Ben wants to
Uh,
join.
he
Our
has he
our
has he
official
has
third
thoughts.
co-host here. Ben,
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
us.
Ben, tell us your thoughts. No, I mean, it reminds me, like I said, I mean, if we're gonna get right into it,
Let's get into it. Give the raw
the,
feels.
okay, so basically almost the entire first iteration of the team that is on the cover, minus Havoc, uh, dies. And that is, like I said, it's very reminiscent of Ecstatics, which had Mike Allred famously drew that, and it was iconic. But I think the thing with this one is I kind of saw that twist coming from the very beginning of the
Oh,
issue.
I was genuinely surprised.
Oh yeah, no. It's like wow, an inexperienced mutant caused stupid destruction and got people killed. Woo! Like I saw that as soon as I saw these green mutants on the team, which again was a complaint that I have had about From the Ashes. Sorry, I don't know what everything is called these days. Is that there's too many new mutant characters. So
Yeah.
already the inclusion of multiple new mutant characters in this title had me a little frustrated. And then when I saw truly how green they were and how serious the situation they were dropping them into was, I saw the death coming like immediately. Immediately.
It framed a lot of questions we had because when we were seeing these covers, there were so many different team members and people were confused by it. And now it's streamlined that that original team died. I'm not angry that, I don't think Cameo died. Cameo looks like he's alive, and that's a new mutant created for the series.
Yeah.
But I think it's heavily implied that Rusty is dead.
Oh yeah.
Like he looks very
Fire
dead.
Fist. His name is Fire
Oh, I'm
Fist.
sorry, Fire Fist. Fire Fist is definitely dead. And I cannot, I guess Farrell question mark almost dead, but
I mean,
these are
she was impaled. She seemed pretty dead to me. She
these
seemed
are
pretty dead.
the disrespect that was here for Farrell. I can't. I mean, when she was on the red carpet earlier in this issue, and people are like, "Boo!" I'm like, does EW not exist in this world? Because she is on the top list of X-Men.
Yeah,
How? Why is there so much disrespect for Maria Gaia Santos? That's her last
because
name.
she's not wearing hot pink.
Because no, we're not fake.
She's the hot pink cat lady who's not wearing hot pink, and people are upset about it. Boo.
I could not believe that they booed her. Like, like if
Same.
you were gonna do anything, people would have been like, "Who is that?" But I don't think
Right.
they would have booed her. And what's more, her and Rusty were dead. They were brought back during the Krakoan era, and now they killed them off again. And by the way, Rusty's resurrection happened in one of those Marvel Unlimited issues. It was kind of like a not background because you had the panel, but it was just you swipe through it like, oh, they resurrected Rusty.
Yeah.
Now, why would you just kill him off again like that? And so many people were happy to see Rusty again.
I mean, so many people minus me. Listen, I don't have strong feels about Rusty Fire Fist.
Fire.
But I'm sure that a lot of, New Mutant fans are probably pretty pissed about it. And I'm not a New Mutants fan, but that it's not my teen book. So yeah, I just it didn't the tone and the humor of it all just didn't land like right off the bat. Like the army general that whatever the TV producer guy is working with is named General Mills. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's just silly
Mm-hmm.
to me. And I instantly wasn't taking this book seriously because it was just so silly. And I think you make a good point. As serviceable, not more than serviceable, as good as Bob Quinn's art is, it doesn't deliver the humor of it quite as well as somebody like Allred would. And I think that thinking about it more since you have made that point, it makes it a little more obvious that the art is not a good fit for this book.
I couldn't really until you framed it. Look at us giving each other compliments. Oh my goodness.
What is this?
I think you make the valid point about ecstatic because I think this is from the Ashes's answer to ecstatic.
Sure.
Except like, they want to make the X-Men relevant to business and how it works within the confines of social media and pop culture, but I think it's losing the original idea of what X Factor was, which was this interpersonal, relationships with these characters while still navigating the idea that they're working for a government team.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. I don't think that comes across here. I don't
No.
want to say it comes across soulless in that you've sold your soul to a corporation. I want to say soulless in terms of I don't think it's thought what it's trying to say about being a mutant post Krakoa joining the government. This isn't just like, oh, mutants are hated, and the government's hunting them down. They sent literally the humans have sent sentinels to kill them at the Hellfire Gala. Like mutants
Yeah.
are underground. They have to do these signals, right? That we've seen in the Gail Simone previews. Like it's a dire time for mutants. It's weird to me that they would be walking a red carpet in Hollywood and in like I don't know, like a Jennifer Aniston type compound. It doesn't make any sense to me that they would be tracking stats and everything, you know?
Yeah, it just didn't the whole framing of it of them being, reality TV, TikTok, whatever you want to say, social media sensations. I it just it's not a bad concept. I just don't think now, with how, all of the other X books are presenting the mutant community after the fall of Krakoa, I don't feel like now would be the right time for anybody to try this. From what I can tell, mutants are on the outs again. People are scared of them. They just presented themselves as gods and had their comeuppance, and like they're on everybody's shit list. So it seems like regardless of everybody dying, it seems like a doomed project to begin with.
What realistically would happen, it would be a Netflix documentary on what happened to Krakoa, and it would
Yeah,
follow people like Angel and people who did not have like massive roles in Krakoa but have the most to say about it. I think
yeah,
that is more realistic of what you're if we're going to be playing that angle. But again, it's kind of hard to take the source material seriously because I don't think the satire lands, and I don't think the commentary is quite tight. There were a couple things here though that I do want to say that I liked because Angel says something like, "Oh, you're going to bring Frenzy on the team. You're going to kill me, aren't you?" And of course, I thought immediately of Frenzy's appearance in X Factor
yeah.
where Angel punches her directly in, which by the way, how does Angel get a fist onto Frenzy? That doesn't make any sense because his
No, it doesn't.
at the very least, Angel is supposed to have hollow bones. That's how he can fly. So how is he punching Frenzy, who's a tank? But regardless, I kind of like that little like haha nod nod that they do have this adversarial history, even though I mean she was an ambassador for Sword, as we discussed.
Right, right.
Like,
She's and she
wouldn't you
she
have moved on by now?
Right, and she was, an inverted to in at the end of Age of X to be a hero, and who knows how long ago in X-Men continuity that was, but she's been a good guy for a while. So his response to her here, while cute, while clever, it's kind of, to me reads a little bit like another instance of acknowledging what you want to acknowledge and ignoring, development sense. We kind of had that complaint with Gail Simone, where it kind of felt like she maybe wasn't up on things. I'm not sure if this is that, or if the joke is just funnier when you discard the fact that she's been a hero for, I mean, 15 years, our time.
Yeah. No, I listen, I would give the same note that I gave to Gail Simone, which is reading this, I'm not convinced you are an X Factor fan, you understand the history. I'm sure you did your research and thank you for these nods, but there's something here that's just not landing. The other thing I was questioning was when Angel kind of gives that side eye about Havoc, and I'm like, when was the last time Havoc and Angel interacted? And I thought, was it the Chuck Austin era? And if it was, Angel's in no position to give the side eye to Alex because one, he was dating Husk at the time, and that was very contentious. And two, Havoc was with Annie. So at the very least, they both were making mistakes during this time that
Right.
they should just be more like, oh, that was a terrible time. But I can't think, and I'm sure maybe the family at home, if they know, they'll DM us. But I'm like, why is he giving the side eye to Alex all of a sudden? I don't think what is it about? There's nothing about Alex and Angel that I would say was terrible.
No, and you are correct. The last time that they were on a team together, or that I know of that they, worked together on panel, was the Chuck Austin run, which, Havoc was he was basically the team leader of
Yeah.
of that
After he
team.
woke
So
up
like,
from Unit X.
yeah. So like, why would Warren have any problems with someone he has followed into battle and taken orders from being on his team? But I mean, we're opening the can of worms now. We're opening the can of worms
Where
because,
is the respect for these Chuck Austin era plots? I want to know.
okay, well, that's not the can of worms I'm talking about. The can of worms I'm talking about is the treatment of Alex, of
Yeah.
Havoc here. I
Yeah.
mean, he is somebody who was more than capable throughout the 90s and the aughts, especially in Mutant X. He held his own in a dark, twisted, reality, leading a team of dark, twisted X-Men, and was able to, keep his head on and do amazing things. So for him to refer to himself as an idiot which he did in this issue, he called himself an idiot,
Yeah.
is like so disappointing. But it is unfortunately in line with how he's been written since Axis, where he was inverted to a villain against his will, and it's just a massive disappointment to me. I was really hoping that a return to this costume and like a throwback to his X Factor era was going to mean a return to a more confident, capable Havoc. And it's, in this issue, judging on this issue alone, that is not what we're going to get, and that is very disappointing.
I have to tap in on this with you because I want to get your back because for the familia at home, post Avengers versus X-Men, after Cyclops killed Xavier and he was imprisoned, we got Uncanny Avengers. And
Mhm.
this was the promise of an Alex Summers renaissance. And it kind of just went off the deep end with Axis. I don't think he was terrible in this issue. What I was kind of thinking was him and Polaris work a certain way versus him and Maddie, and I was trying to decipher that. And I think the thing is with Maddie, Alex is a bottom. With Polaris, Alex is a top, right? And I think he's kind of coming out of it and finding his own. But to my feels, and I think these are yours, we don't have to go through this journey of self-discovery with Alex. He has had, at this point, decades long stories where he's being marginalized. Just show him being a leader, right? Oh, you know where it was even before Access that Alex had his downfall. Do you remember the moment people turned on Alex Summers?
Off the top
What
of my head, I know because I
when he's
never turned on him. I never turned on him.
but the general masses was when he was giving that press conference for the Avengers Unity
Oh,
Squad, and
yeah.
he's here like, "Don't call me the M word," and they're like,
Oh,
"What?" And he's here like, "My name is Alex." M word being mutant, but the second he said that, oh my god, the internet went nuts.
including me. I Now that you've said it, I have blocked it out of my mind. You know how I feel about Rick
Yeah,
Remender. I
yeah. I
do
know you're not
not
Remy.
care for Rick Remender's anything. Sorry to, the stands are going to come for me, the
I'm a
uncanny
Remender fan, but
fans.
it's fine. There's no doubt that that was such a misfire. I don't
I
know. You
blocked
can
it from my mind.
even I can't defend that scene. That is a tough scene to defend.
He was the poster boy for mutants for the government for a very long time. So the fact that he would ever divorce himself from his mutant heritage is just bullshit, like through and through. There is
So
no defending that line whatsoever. And actually, I dropped the book. I dropped Uncanny
I
Avengers.
do remember
Yeah,
that. You did
after
after
that
that.
issue.
You did, but that was the beginning of the downfall for Alex from a publishing standpoint, and they've never been able to have the character bounce back when it's such an easy fix. Just show him being a bit more confident. He's with Lorna now. This is someone who's familiar. He's going back into it's like kind of like writing a bike deal in terms of leading X Factor again, being with Lorna. Show that. On the flip side, though, I kind of like that Lorna is such an extremist now because we did see that
Yes.
in House of X where she's like, huh, humans, what good are they? And so I like now that in a post Krakoan world, she would be like, my name is not Lorna, my name is Pilar. I love that. Lorna continues to be an MVP in every book she's in.
I agree. I really like that sort of twist on her. I don't know if she's going to be an outright antagonist, but like the idea of her at odds with Havoc, philosophically, to me is more interesting than them just being a default couple again. If to be perfectly honest, in my opinion, they haven't really been an interesting couple since the 90s. And I hate when they're just always sort of shoehorned together by default. And I was kind of worried that that was what was going to happen here with the From the Ashes story we got on Unlimited, where he was magically cured from what, Maddie keeping him sick and wound up just smiling with Lorna on a
But
park bench.
But wait, so this is where I'm lost, and maybe you can make the bridge for me. Why is she coming to the the Limbo embassy and trying to recruit Alex for what? And then Alex has to go through this entire process to get healed, and then at the end of this like mini series, he's with Lorna on a bench and they're having a good time. I thought she was recruiting him to bring him over to X Factor, and now
Yeah.
we pick up an X Factor and they're at odds spiritual, which I'm fine with. I don't care. That's perfect for me. They can be at odds. I agree with you. I think they have always been put together by de facto. I actually like them together. I'm okay with it, but I can understand that that's not it doesn't make sense that they're together. Oh, you know what? I'm going to give you Rise and Fall. I think Rise and Fall, they were actually kind of cute together.
They were okay. They were okay. But if you think, in my opinion,
No,
of the
Golgotha, Golgotha.
oh God, who or what? Who or
Oh,
what is
what? It's
Golgotha?
Golgotha. That's
20
where they
years later, I
that
don't
was their
fucking know.
that's where they repaired their relationship was during Golgotha.
Jesus
Peter Milligan
Christ.
saved Havoc and Polaris.
I mean, that was before she became a horseman. So
Oh
they
yeah,
had,
because that's when she gets kidnapped. She's looking
yeah,
for power, so she gets kidnapped, and then she becomes Pestilence.
yeah. I mean, listen, just to me, when I think of some of, the very best Havoc stories, the Outback era,
Hmm.
Mutant X.
I love Mutant X.
And these are stories that he's not with Lorna. And even in Peter David's X Factor, they were questioning their relationship a little bit. I mean, they remained a couple, but Lorna was going through her stuff with her identity, and he was finally emerging outside of his older brother's shadow. So like, even though they were a couple at that point, it didn't revolve around them being a couple.
Agreed.
And I can give you Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire, which I didn't really like it as it was being published. That's probably because I was unfairly comparing it to Mike Carey, which launched at the same
Oh,
time. Which praise Mike Carey, Saint Mike Carey, we love him.
everyone needs to
So
go get on their knees and pray to Mike Carey right now.
please,
What a
please God, can we
wonderful
have
run.
him back? Remember when they were
Ah,
like teasing that he was maybe going to do a Krakoan era book, and then it
oh,
just never
of
happened?
course.
Like, my God, my
And
heart
by
is
the way,
broken.
when he left X-Men Legacy, he was like, "Oh, it may not," or the editorial was like, "Oh, this isn't the end for Mike Carey. He's going to be back one day."
Mm,
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 mm, mm. We're
mm,
still waiting.
mm.
Still waiting.
Well, my larger point was Rise and Fall. I got the War of Kings omnibus, which has Rise and Fall and all of the subsequent miniseries with Alex and Lorna and Rachel on the Starjammers. Read all at once like that. I actually liked it a lot better. So fine, sure, great. I do wish that there had been some sort of explanation as to how they were just magically together rather than them just being paired together. So I will give credit to this. This didn't, despite what the From the Ashes, Marvel Unlimited series seemingly set up, we didn't start here with them just together with no explanation. And I do appreciate that.
Yeah. I listen, I'm in here for Havoc and Polaris. I have no qualms with them sort of coming together, navigating. I was kind of confused why I guess she doesn't want to join X Factor, so that's why she's incognito as the new team is being announced at the end.
Yeah.
And that is the final page is after the established X Factor team gets killed by X Term in their
Sure.
facilities, short led
Great.
by Darkstar. And
Sure.
it's Farrell who dies, or maybe dead. I mean, again, I agree with you.
She
She looks
looks
very dead.
dead as she looks very dead.
Fire Fist and Cameo, they're no longer on the team. The new team we get are, which by the way, in of itself wouldn't have been terrible. Which is, it's Havoc, it's Dr. Reyes, who I'm happy to see Dr. Reyes,
Yes,
Frenzy,
yes.
Pyro, and then the two new characters. One of them is a Granny Smite. I think it's
Sure.
Granny Smite, and I don't know how to pronounce the new kid's name. It's XY for her.
Zyber.
Zyber. Okay, Zyber. Um, so I don't know. I feel like a team with just Dr. Reyes, Frenzy, Havoc, and Pyro, and Angel and Polaris, sort of on the outskirts, with Rusty and Farrell being a revolving cast, would have been interesting in of
Yeah.
itself. That to me would have been a slam dunk. I don't know. I don't want to have to go through getting to know Granny Smite or Zyber.
Farrell is impaled in multiple places and has blood just gushing out of her
Okay, but
face.
here's the thing. Wait, I'm
She
sorry.
dead, girl. She
Farrell
dead.
is really dead, and the narration tries to be like, "Oh, maybe we'll leave it open." And what infuriates me is that Farrell died because Sabretooth killed her, in that issue where Wolverine decapitates Sabretooth. That was like the
Yep.
big story whenever it was published. And then she haunted around during X Factor
Loved it.
investigations. And then finally she was brought back during the Krakoan era, and they were like, great, give us more Feral. Oh
Yep.
my gosh, she's in this new From the Ashes team. Then you kill her. And then again, Rusty Collins killed by it was Holocaust who killed him. And we heard nothing of him ever again. He was never resurrected until that issue on X-Men Unlimited. Why even bring him back just to kill him like that? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's a cheap trick. It's a cheap trick, and it's a well that they revisit far too often. And especially after the Krakoan era, where people were dying and coming back from the dead, left and right, it would seem like we might, I don't know, cherish the mutants who are living and weren't banished to the White Hot Room a little bit more before we just instantly start killing them. But I,
Because you want those deaths to be earned. I think that's what's
yes,
really important. I
this
don't
felt cheap.
this isn't because like we've talked about this before where Gambit dies in X-Men 97, and even people who are diehard Gambit fans are like, that was a great ending. That was a great death
Yes.
for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You earn that death. I'm not mad that they killed Farrell. I'm not mad that they
Oh,
killed
I am.
Rusty. I'm mad that they killed them without any emotional context or bothering to tell a story, that it's just a, bloop and it's done. It just feels very cheap.
I mean, did Farrell even speak? Like, I can't, like,
No, she just looked, who said boo, I'll hit you. That's it. That's all she said.
how dare they kill Farrell this way? I hate it. I hate it.
Maria
It's not.
deserves better. I'm sorry. It's so weird to see this happen when we are being such big advocates for Marvel Legends Feral, and feeling that like all of like Marvel Legends stands are dying to complete their X-Force set. Feral's the last one. We're all hyped for Feral, and then you bring her into X Factor just to kill her meaninglessly. Again, it's not like she's fighting and she's here like, I've
Yeah,
always been the underdog, but this is my time to. That's it. I'm the underdog. Oh, it's my time to prove myself. And then she
sure.
dies. You
That
know
would be
what I mean? Give
fine.
her something.
They gave her nothing. They gave
Or
her
being like, I'm
nothing.
gonna, I'm gonna be haunting you again, Rain.
I mean,
Dead.
maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe we're going to get sassy Ghost Feral back, and as long as she's wearing hot pink, maybe I'll be okay with it. I will say, there is a dash of optimism here because, like you said, the new team is pretty great. I'm really excited to have Dr. Reyes there. I'm excited to see more of Frenzy being a hero. I always have liked Frenzy. I've liked her since the early days when she appeared, in the original 5 version of X Factor. Um, I'm so and this might get me in trouble with the Familia. I don't know how popular it is, but I am less thrilled about the Krakoan overhaul of Pyro being carried forward.
Mm.
Even if I liked some of those early Marauders issues where all that happened, rebranding Pyro as this extreme, comic relief character rather than the fabulous Australian dandy that he is,
Yeah.
the joke has kind of worn on me a little bit. I really don't love that we're carrying this forward. And that's just me. That's just me. That doesn't I like Pyro as a character. Maybe this will be make better use of him. He won't be quite as silly as he was in Marauders, but I don't have a lot of faith in that as long as he still has that ridiculous tattoo on his face.
Well, Pyro was kind of like the Oscar Wilde of the Brotherhood, where he was very dandyish. There was a lot of metatextuality with him. And was he being sly? Was he being cunning? There were a lot of undertones in his personality
Yeah.
versus when you get him in Marauders and he's having a fantasy of being on like a hot rod with Marvel Girl next to him, and he's going to do the face tattoo and he's so drunk. And I agree. It's jarring. And has the joke played itself out? Do we need to continue some of the things that didn't work in the Krakoan age? Maybe
Yeah.
if we're going to be doing such a hard reboot from a line, I really wish Brevoort would sit down and look at what does need to be a hard reboot and what could be carried over. And I think, there were early rumors that they were going to ignore Krakoa altogether, that they would somehow retcon Krakoa. I'm glad they didn't. I'm
Same.
glad that in From the Ashes, we are looking at the world in a post-Krakoan light. But at the same time, if you're going to reboot, there was a lot of things that didn't work in that final stretch of Krakoa. maybe just grab that editorial pen and revise. And not
Yeah.
many people would have questions about it. So I don't know. I'm going to tell you, I don't think this is going to be a series I'm going to continue. I'll probably glance at it on Unlimited when it comes out in Marvel Unlimited, but I don't think. Oh, you know one thing I did like?
Yeah, let's
The
give
one
it a little bit of praise.
Okay, you know what? The one thing I always think of X Factor is them working out at the gym,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
we had a gym scene here. So
A,
love a
a,
gym scene.
a throwback that we can appreciate. Yeah.
Especially like a gym scene. I will say though, a gym scene in Hollywood, like there should be a trainer there. I don't know why there was no trainer there or someone there to be like, here's some
Yeah.
Ozempic. I them saying like, oh, here's some Ozempic so you can keep your figure. That's what you would do if you're doing a modern satire of
Yeah.
social media, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm going to keep with it just for a little bit longer because I do like the lineup. I do want to see if Havoc does something. I am interested in the idea of, Lorna being something of an antagonist to the team. I wonder if she's going to get a team of her own to, a
See.
brotherhood to oppose, X Factor. There's enough there, and I have such a love for the X Factor brand that I can't just give it up completely. But if it keeps reading like a worse version of Ecstatics, I'm not down for that. I'm not.
So I pulled the Familia. I asked their feels on X Factor. I just posted this like 2 hours ago, so we don't have we don't have all the full votes that we normally would, but we did get 500 votes in 507, and 26% said it was amazing.
That's pretty
12%.
low.
Well, here's where it's concerning. 12% said it was awful,
That was
but
me.
62% did not read it.
Here's the thing that I'm
62%
just
of
gonna.
X-Men fans out there did not read it. And listen, I'm never going to say that Power of X-Men is the definitive thing here, but
No.
it is a cultural sample of X-Men fans. And that is very low that people are not reading this book.
Well, and yeah, it's not great. It's not a great statistic for sure. But here's the thing that really strikes me. I've said it repeatedly about From the Ashes. We as longtime X-Men fans are clearly not the target audience for these books. I don't
Mhm.
know why that's the case. I think that is a huge misfire that they're not intentionally trying to appeal to the Wednesday Warriors who have been there through bullshit like, Inhumans versus X-Men. But for whatever reason, it seems like they are kind of and that reason is probably Tom Brevoort. Like he
Yeah,
as admittedly didn't like the X-Men. He talked down about the X-Men on his forums. I
I
know you don't
can't.
want to be reminded of this horrible thing.
Specifically about any character with the last name Gray.
Well,
That's that was Rachel
Jean
Gray at the
has her own
time.
book. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just it's disappointing to feel like our loyalty to these books is being repaid with things that are not appealing or seem intentionally not appealing to us. So we'll see how it goes. I honestly, so far, all of, we're what, like 4 or 5 books into this relaunch. It's one of the worst ones we've gone through. I think it's
Yeah.
safe to say at this point, this relaunch is near the bottom.
I was ready to hate on NYX, and I think NYX is the best. I
Yep.
really do like Judd McKay's X-Men. I think Gail Simone is mid. That is a mid read. I'm not saying that it's not really good. Phoenix is sort of like below that. What else have we gotten?
X Force.
Oh, this is on par with X-Force. This is for me,
I,
this is X-Force. This is so bad that I just don't want to read it. Like I have no
I
interest. I have no
it's a
interest in it.
step above. It's a
Yeah.
step above X
Okay,
Force
that's
for
fair.
me.
That's fair.
For me. I think the one last thing that we have to address is, of course, the QR code page,
Oh my
which
God,
was,
I forgot about it. I
yeah,
forgot about the
well,
QR code.
it jumps back to the horribly named General Mills,
Mm-hmm.
and whoever this reality TV or
Mm-hmm.
Instagram influencer producer, whatever, standing in front of a big locked door, saying, what did they say? if people find out what we're keeping in there, it can always get worse. I honestly have no real theories as to who or what might be Golgotha.
Golgotha is
Golgotha might be
back.
Golgotha's locked up in this thing.
Golgotha's back.
I I know you forgot about it, so you probably haven't ruminated on it for too long.
No,
But
not only did I forget about it, I didn't even click it. I'm clicking on it right now.
oh,
But when I said
whoops.
I forgot about it, I said I forgot about the QR code stuff,
Oh
which, by the
God.
way,
Okay.
Tom Brevoort talked about this on his Substack because a lot of people, there's so much conversation out there. And Tom Brevoort basically positioned this as extra material that comes in your books. So
Yeah.
that's fine. But a lot of people are like, oh, the story's incomplete, all this stuff. And then Brevoort was
Mm,
also at one point was like, this is like a way to avoid spoilers because I don't think these are spoilery pages by any means.
no, no. They're
Um,
teases.
I don't know what it's Apocalypse. That's where Apocalypse went after Era of
Sure.
Apocalypse. I'm trying to think.
Sure.
It's going to be something that ties into the original, or at least one of the major X Factor stories. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's Siren's baby. It's
Oh
Siren.
dear.
It's Baby Sean. It's Baby
Back
Sean.
back from wherever dupes go when they're
Yeah,
oh
it's
Lord.
Baby
Or
Sean back
maybe
from the
it's
dead.
Rain's baby.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe it's going to be all the dead X Factor. They're going to just continue killing X Factor and putting
Sure.
them, resurrecting them.
Great. Maybe it's a better version of Havoc. It was not the worst. It wasn't even mid. I would rank it below Gail Simone, above X-Force. I hope it improves. I'm not optimistic.
Well,
That's all. That's
we're
it.
giving all of these books a try. Familia, thank you for joining us for today. I'm the Uncanny Dayspring, and you can hit me up on Power of X-Men on Instagram.
And I am the adjectiveless Flinkman, and you can hit me up at Flinkman on Instagram.
And we have some really exciting stuff coming down the pipeline that I can't wait to share.
Yeah, no, it's going to be good. I'm thrilled to. This is our third time recording together in like a week, so like
You're gonna be sick of me.
I'm no, this was my idea.
That's true, it
Uh,
was.
I'm back, so I'm having a good time, and I hope everybody else is too.